Hi, and welcome back into building a business or a company, if you will, on eBay from ground up. In today's episode, you will see for a company, you need a lawyer. The nearest facility to smoke is like half a mile away. Company, like a company's company, which is the company. How it is did you get you an office? Whether the legal structure that you went with is self-employed or a company. What are the costs that you will inevitably encounter while trying to get yourself even in the tiniest of the rooms that are available out there as a commercial property? You will need a solicitor. And why is that, would you ask? Well, the simple answer is this is your simple bog standard tenancy agreement that you will do if you try to rent a house, and it's only a couple of pages long with small print and whatnot, and you can pretty much read it yourself, and they're usually for a period of 6 to 12 months and renewal dates and whatnot. But even with the shortest standard contracts in the UK, you'll find yourself linking either yourself or the company for a period for at least 3 years, and even then the very basic contract will be, well, as this one is, for at least 20 pages long, and it will include pretty pictures and clearly not a common words. So some of the agencies you will deal with will actually require you to have a solicitor's help and deal with them on your behalf, but I actually strongly recommend you do so. You spend an extra, it's a tough one, but I do recommend to spend a little extra to get a solicitor to represent you. So let's begin and see what it actually takes to get you from being sitting here to being in the office. The beginning is pretty much the same as you would with your normal rental property. You just go into internet and ask the internet or Google to show you the offices that are being let around you or around the area you're interested in. After which you make a list, check the prices for them, and just start calling them up and arrange a viewing to be made, and obviously a discussion with the whomever is showing you the office. So after you've made your initial agreement to meet, you don't stop just there. You keep looking around, because it will most probably be the case where you end up looking at the property and something's not as you imagined it. Maybe the pictures were wrong, maybe the pictures were from a different place, maybe the extras that they will throw in will actually be something that you are not willing to pay, or you're a smoker, for example, and the nearest facility to smoke is like half a mile away from yourself, and there is the smoking is not permitted within any of the facilities and stuff, so you will kind of be a bit screwed there. But regardless, moving fast forwarding and to the date you're actually at the place, you meet the guy or woman or whomever represents the property. So that's your chance to ask most of the questions. And with that, let me just double check. You will be getting the actual information on where it is that your office, let me just double check, there is nothing shown that should not be shown. You will be getting an information where it is that your office is located, what's the actual, one of the pages should actually show the size of the property you're getting. So, and sooner or later you will finally make up your mind. I'm fairly sure you will, because I mean, otherwise you will be just spending ages forever looking at the offices and not getting one, which is the whole point of getting the office, as in making up your mind and making a decision. But regardless, so you've made up your mind, and what should you do from here? Well, the most of the agencies, if you're not going rogue landlords or something like that, they will do it through the agency. So the agency will supply you with the documentation required to submit an application onto the office, because if you have the money and you intend to lease something, it's not a guarantee that the landlord or the letting agency will actually just pre-approve you or approve you on the spot. They have to consider what you're doing, they have to consider who you are, they have to consider your history. So yes, your credit history will absolutely matter, the same way it does for the usual rental properties, but even more so when you're renting an office. If you are a self-employed, I'd say the very minimum you would have to be self-employed to have at least somewhat less problems that you will usually encounter is 2 years. And pretty much the same goes with the limited companies or LLCs if you're watching overseas. This is to show that you're not just a one-day firm that was created for bogus reasons, just to launder money or something else, to do something illegal. So I'll show them that you are actually making money, that you are capable of paying however little or big the rent is, and to ensure, and this will be part of the decision making, because while this contract that we have with this property, it is between a limited company, ourselves, and a physical person, so the landlord. We don't have, or the landlord doesn't have a like a company that he does these lettings through. He doesn't have like a proper big business. He just has several properties maybe, and he lets them out through an agency, and he's basically made this contract. I would gladly show it, but obviously there's lots of private stuff. So that's the way we made a contract between a physical person and the limited company. But as the company wasn't formed that long ago, which means less than a year ago it was formed, it means it's not enough for just the company to be on the lease. So in addition to that, there had to be a guarantor. In some cases, you might even have to have 2 guarantors in order to have the property. So if the landlord or the agency or the company likes who you are, they like what your business is doing, they've checked the records and see that there is no problems associated with the business itself, then you have to submit your own information as to be the guarantor of the business. And now whomever is letting this, or leasing rather, this to you, has to like everything about you as well, which means how much you're earning, how long you're working there, wherever you're working, what is the type of your income, is it a steady income from a recognizable source, a full-time job, full-time employment, and so on. And after that is where the actual proceedings, or rather a leasing, can begin ish. So what it consists from is your solicitor or solicitors, or the company, the legal firm that you hired on your behalf, and the landlord solicitors or firm on his behalf or her behalf. They will speak to each other, and for us this began late August with the intention to move in September or early October. And yes, some of you, if you have any experience with leasing a commercial property for whatever reason, through the agency and the whole legal bureaucracy type of thing can laugh at the other end, because we've received the keys to the office and finally signed the lease on 22nd of November. So yeah, that was nice and fun, and it is 8th of December today, and we are still unable to move. Well, we are able to move in, we are unable to use the facility because there's no electricity, and we currently are in the process of solving that. At least the internet's connected, as you now know. So this all took so long. Why? For a single reason being, lawyers or solicitors, they like to talk to each other, but in a very untimely manner as far as I could gather, because I mean, I was obviously on the phone 24/7 calling them for updates and stuff and trying to nudge them, but they wouldn't budge in most of the cases and just continued in their own pace. You probably would like to know what the costs are that are involved with leasing an office. Well, obviously, when you look online, you will see that not all of the places will give you a price, but some of them will. And you will see, okay, so this is a smallish an office space, right? And it is rented out at 50 quid per month or 50 quid per week. And you would think like, okay, 50 quid per week or 100 quid per week, whichever the case might be for your area or the area you're looking at. And you might think, oh, that's not too bad. 200 quid for a small room that I will definitely have enough space for, and it will be my own little corner. But the cost to just the cost of the lease is not the cost you will be paying, because when you're renting just your property, then you're putting a deposit a first month or a deposit in a sum of 2 months of rent, and you pretty much golden. You go from there. Now, this is not the case with the solicitors and the leasing commercial properties. So at the very minimum that it took us, and speaking of which, you will need to pay, does it show anything? Hopefully you can see what the contract says from there. Basically, as someone who's leasing the office, as far as I can tell, it's industry standard that you are paying for the landlord's solicitor's services as well as your services. Your solicitor services. So you're paying for 2 solicitors, and depending again where you are, it will vary in prices, and obviously different people charge different rates. You could have someone who's just starting out and working as a self-employed and therefore charge you either less or more, and then you can hire a firm, a whole law firm, to deal on your behalf, which again might be either more or less. But in our case, the landlord solicitors costed us a little over 700 quid, and our solicitors costed us almost 800 quid, and that's for a property that weekly is a 70 quid, I do believe, because I mean it was so long ago I can't even recall now everything that I paid in that. But obviously I will show the proper numbers where the just for you in here on screen, so you know exactly what the thing was. So besides that, you will have to pay almost 100% a business rates, which is your typical council tax. If you've never heard of this before, then businesses have to pay the tax that they are occupying a business premises or commercial premises. In this case, they are called, in the UK at least, business rates. And I was lucky enough that the landlord actually informed us that we could have a business tax relief, which means we either pay some amount of the tax rates or the or we don't pay any taxes at all. It all depends on your local council, and that's something that is provided for small businesses that occupy their first commercial premises in the UK, and the commercial value of the property, I think the proper term is, does not exceed £2,500 or something. Let me just quickly double check. This is called a small business rate relief, and it's rateable value. There we go. It's called rateable value. The premises and rateable value of the premises have to not exceed, I think it's somewhere close to £2,500. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but we did end up qualifying for that, so that's at least something, because that would also throw another £500 or so, depending on the property, what it is and was the intended use, the registered class of the property, the commercial property, because again, depending on what you do, you have to have a different class of premises. So B1 or B2 is your typical office paperwork and stuff, and A1 or C1 would be something else, like something could be construction, something could be production, and so on and so forth. So you have to make sure the property class that's registered to the property in the land registry. Speaking of which, in order to register yourself to the office, you will also have to pay a land registry search fee, which your solicitor will conduct on your behalf to ensure that the person in your lease, if it's a physical person or even if it's a limited company, it still would be the same, I presume, that they actually have a title to that, but basically that they own the property that they are leasing to you. And you will also have to pay a land registry insertion fee, which pretty much just makes you entitled to the property, I guess the simple terms could say. Anyhow, you are able to fully deal with the property, whatever your lease allows you to do. So nobody can just come in and say, yeah, you get out. No, this is more like that. I've got a lease, I've got the land registry insertion, which hopefully does something good, because you also have to pay for that as well, which did cost a small amount, but still it did cost on top. Now then, depending on the landlord or the firm or the agency that you're dealing with, and obviously the region of the UK you're in, you will have to pay even more on top. So you've paid your solicitor, you've paid the landlord solicitors, and you paid your landlord registry search and insertion fees. Now you will have to pay, at least in our case, a 3 months deposit up front. I think it's 3 months. I'm fairly sure it's 3 months. I'll double check that, but you will see it on the screen here. Besides that, you have to pay a insurance, the landlord's insurance, which will insure the rest of the property, but not what's inside of your office. So you have to get a separate insurance for that, and that's roughly, I think it was about 30 quid per month. But yes, so then you've got yourself extra things to pay, which are, what's the name of them? Service charges, there we go. Then on top of your monthly rent, your insurance, not your insurance, the landlord's insurance, and you get yourself standing charges, no, service charges. That's what you get on top of everything else, and that is to include building maintenance, cleanup maybe, fix-ups, and the redecorations of the common areas and the areas that are accessible by everybody else. So that's where you will also be spending extra money. So if you're going back into beginning, if you're looking at 50 quid per week and thinking, I can manage that, it's not the amount you'll be paying. Trust me, you will be having so more things on top. And besides that, not only that, the upfront cost to actually get into the office will be way more than you would have experienced with your regular tenancy agreements where you just pay 2 months up front and you're good, you're in, you've got the keys and that's it. No, it's way more than that. In a conclusion, how do you get an office in the UK? You go and search as normal internet and you find the property, you go and look at it. If you're happy with the property, you get a solicitor to represent you. Then the solicitor on your behalf will conduct the lease and the other things that are supposed to be from the legal standpoint. And all you have to do is wait there. Well, I mean, give them a ring once every so often, every fortnight or so. But leave that to them. All you have to do now is get your money ready for the day that your office will be available to yourself when both parties agree to sign, because you will be provided with the leases. If your solicitor is up to standard with his best practices and services, you will be invited several times into the office and discussed. The lease will be read out to you and explained and chewed out to the very simplest bits in case you don't understand anything or something, and the solicitor will then explain the legal terms to yourself, so you know, and you don't find yourself in a pickle in a 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, whatever it might be. But yes, you form a lease. It's 3 years as a minimum, and by the way, you can't get out of it. There is a break clause which can be included into some cases, but for most 3 years basic standard leases, there will not be a break clause, which means you are to be renting this at all times from the day you are starting to the day you're finishing for at least the period mentioned in the lease, and you won't be able to get it out. There is no notice periods, and it goes the same for the landlord. If the landlord is unhappy with you but you're still within the lease terms, you don't do anything to break the lease, then landlord cannot get rid of you. Even if the property is sold to someone else, you're still protected by the lease. They can't just kick you out. You are there and you're concrete solid there, and they won't be able to get you out. But to continue with where you go from there, so solicitors will do most of the things on your behalf. So all you have to do is pay them all when the lease is signed. Well, you have to pay, I'm guessing, up front for the landlord solicitors. But other than that, you will have to be paying your solicitors after they've done everything for you, after you've got the lease signed, after you've got your keys on your hand, and after you obviously moved in. They will provide you the closing statement, so to say, and pretty much that's how you get an office. It's slightly more complicated, and it's definitely more costly than your typical rent agreement, so to say, but it's not too difficult when you're not doing it yourself, because otherwise it would be a nightmare, I suppose. Well, it would be for myself, because I would have to buy like 5 Oxford dictionaries or something to get through that text that's in them 20 or so pages. But other than that, it just takes time, and it takes money, and it takes patience to get your office, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. And on every step of your way, it's not like nobody is willing to help you out, and if you don't know anything, they won't help you. No, the guys that are letting the property, they are interested in you getting the property, and the solicitors on both sides, they are obviously interested in your best interest. That sounded weird, but I'll go with that. And obviously, if you don't know an aspect here or there, you can, in 99.9% of the cases, you can just ask either the solicitor, the landlord, the agency person that represents the property to go into more detail or provide you some more information, additional information, maybe the exact address, the previous tenancy occupants, or the purpose that it was used for. Maybe, I don't know if that's actually viable thing to ask, and if they are allowed to disclose that. Maybe they are allowed to disclose the building, the previous business, like a occupation or what they did. But yeah, other than that, you can pretty much do not be afraid to go and ask. Always ask if you do not know what your next step is, because you will find that in most of my emails, if I would write about something like this to yourself, if I'm not unsure what the next step is, that would be exactly what I would put on the email. Here is the info I currently have. Here is what I will do next, and could you advise me how I go from here? Do I have to do anything else? What is the next step? Do I have to do anything? Do I expect a call from you? Do I expect a letter from you? Do I expect to be contacted, or do I have to contact? If I have to contact someone, or I expect to be contacted by someone, when it is that I have to go and ask someone about something, if I don't hear back from the corresponding parties. And this is how you progress. It's just asking lots of questions, especially if that's the very first time, as it was for us, dealing with all this matter. Ask a lot of questions. It won't look stupid, it won't look unprofessional, it will just look as though you want to know what it is exactly that you're doing, and you want to know exactly where to go from here. Just not to end up in a situation where somebody is expecting something and you're expecting something, but you both haven't communicated it enough or well enough, or something was miscommunicated, and now you're both waiting for a response from each other. Whereas, yeah, pretty much ask questions and state the current situation. So I have an office, the office lease has been signed, I hold the original lease on hand, I hold the keys, the office has been paid, and there is no electricity in the office. And that will be the end for this story, at least, and I'll catch up with you shortly. Bye for now.